Hello there, good people. Patricia here. And today we are talking about how some of you need to stop selling yourself short because you're acting like you're on the discount aisle over at the plant store or something, and uh, you're not clearance aisle material. So we're going to dig into that a little bit here. But before we do so, please remember that if you enjoyed this content, please hit the thumbs and the thumbs up button, subscribe, and share it with other people who may need some of this insight, some of this support, and some of this accountability along the way. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you all. Okay, so here we are. If you follow my content at all, you know I love me some plants. I love my plants. I have revived my love for house plants, and I've just been like doing all the things. And when I go shopping, I generally have a list, but just like when I shop for books, I have a list and then I ignore the list and go look at something new. But one of the things that I'm always going to do is while I'm looking at all the things and all the new plants and all the lovely rows and rows, I'm going to go find that discount aisle and I'm going to go look at that clearance aisle of those plants and to see what I can see. See if I can find some plants that are healthy enough to rehab, or maybe they're not quite as healthy as they should be, but I'm just willing to take the chance on them anyway. And I've done that more than once. And one of my hauls back in the spring was probably, I probably went a little bit too far because some of them not only didn't make it, they gave up the ghost like literally almost all at once together. It was really crazy. So I pulled back and decided, you know what, I'm going to, go back to investing a little bit more on the front end with some plants that are a little more solid and a little healthier, and maybe leave the rehabs alone for a hot minute because they're taking up more time than I want them to. And I want to be able to enjoy my plants as well, not just always be in caretaker mode. All right. Remember everything that I just said there because here's the reality. I have seen it. There are some people out there who are treating their career as if they need to be on the clearance aisle and as if they need to be that plant sitting there waiting for someone to take a chance on them and to come grab them up at a discount so that you can be grateful that you get to go home with them. Yeah, I said that. And I can say that because I've been in that mentality, right? It's a mindset. Absolutely. And a lot of times that mindset develops in a what one, two, three ways. Number one, if you're just literally a novice, you're a baby, you're new to the workforce, and even though you may have a lot of skills, they haven't been tested yet in the marketplace. So you're just glad literally for someone to sweep you up. I get that. Normal, right? There's still value there, and you need to remember that. But I get that, right? You may say, well, that's a little more acceptable for someone fresh out of school, fresh to the workplace. However, that excuse does not apply to those of us who have been in the workforce for any length of time. And so the other moments where you may feel like, you know what, I'm going to be that clearance aisle plant is when there's been a tough transition at the job. You've got a toxic work environment going on, or you're just like, I really just need to move on and I will do whatever it takes to make that happen. And in all three of those situations, it's a deliberate placing of yourself in the clearance aisle, downplaying your skill set, downplaying your experience, um, ignoring who is coming to quote purchase your skills because you're like, I just need to get to a new home. I need to get to a new position. I need to get to a new place to work. And I am going to tell you right here, right now, that is not in your best interest. It never is. Never, ever, ever, ever. I think I've told this story before, in in videos past, or maybe even in some written posts. But I remember speaking with a colleague of mine. It's been years now, and we were kind of just getting to know each other. She was learning about some of the work that I do, and was like, yeah, I would love to talk about you know what it would look like to and have you take a look at my resume and all of that. Well, I look at her resume and I'm looking at it and I'm like, but didn't you say you used to work over at this place over here for like 10 years? And she's like, yeah, but that just ended so badly and I didn't want to acknowledge that and whatever, I just didn't reference it. And I'm like, you removed 10 years of experience, management experience, off of your resume because of how the situation ended. No, ma'am, no, sir. And guess what? That is not the first time that I've seen that happen. It is so common, unfortunately, for folks to do things like that. Maybe not to that severity, but absolutely along the same line. So maybe it looks like shortening the skills that you and the experiences you had at a certain place for the same reason, right? I didn't really like it over there. I don't really need to acknowledge that. So let me compact that as small as possible because I don't want a lot of questions being asked about that place, right? Or, you know, taking yourself to the clearance aisle. Or maybe it's because of, yes, it was a toxic environment. And quite frankly, you may not even remember some of the skill sets that you utilize to help get yourself out of that. Don't mention it. Shrinking yourself, putting yourself on the clearance aisle. None of this is ever to your benefit. Never. Because when you move to that new place, more than likely, it is not going to meet your satisfaction ultimately because they did not know the extent of your skills, or maybe they knew and pretended that they didn't. Because if they're a really good hiring manager, they can recognize a diamond in the rough or some things like, I think this person's got a little bit more to them, but they're not saying it. And so what happens is the position that you lead into is lesser than what you're capable of. You're capable of so much more, but you've created a pathway to set yourself up to be less than. You absolutely are going to hurt yourself in the financial aspects of it because you're more than likely going to settle for a lower salary or be resentful of what you are offered, but you're going to accept it because you're thinking, I need out of this other gig, so let me go take this anyways. Clearance aisle, clearance aisle, clearance aisle. Take yourself off the clearance aisle. Stop downplaying your skills. Stop not recognizing your value. I read a lovely post the other day, and I wish I could remember so I could give credit. Uh, that was making this distinction between your worth and your value. Your worth is saying that you matter. We all have worth. Your value is what is attached to what you know and how that can bring something to someone else. I'm probably butchering it some, but you get the gist of it. right? And so, from a professional standpoint, from a personal standpoint, always got to remember your worth. Don't let anybody downplay that. From a professional standpoint, yes, you have to remember your worth. That's for you to remember. Your value is what you bring to the table, and you need to not let people downplay your value. But if you set yourself up for that, you kind of can't blame them. If you're not revealing what it is you're truly capable of, what you're truly seeking to pursue, to do, to get done, you're adding to that devaluing. And that is not where you want to be, because in the long term, that is also affecting the career path that you're on, because it's probably not aligned with where you want to be. Not at all. Right? And like I said, if it sounds preachy, I'm so sorry, because a lot of times I have been through many of these things myself, and so I'm preaching and reminding myself as well. Because whenever you're going to the next level of who you want to be, where you want to be in your life and your career, that value proposition comes up. It's just gonna. And sometimes we're like, yeah, but that may be a step backwards, and I really don't want to do that. But what are you bringing forward? Right? I've had a couple conversations this week. It was so fascinating. One of them, someone who has this extensive experience and has gotten a couple of offers, one or two that hasn't worked out, but one that's kind of pending and looking like it's working out, not recognizing that the offer came as a result of their previous experience, not just in what they were doing, but literally where they were placed in the organization. And when we talked about it, they really didn't even like that, didn't even register for them. I clocked it immediately because of what the new place is looking like, what they're needing, and some of those skills and experiences that this person is going to be bringing to that work, like making sure that they acknowledge and understand that up front so that they can build from that, right? Another case, similar situation, going out looking for work, getting some offers, getting some interest, and someone from a field that they don't even work in or have no experience in, let me say, because the field, the industry they're working in, but they don't have experience in this particular uh, area of interest. And the person's like, yeah, I'm not worried about you learning that. I figure you're brilliant at what you do and how you do it. So you just need a few months to get up to speed and we'll be good. Again, shocking to them because it never crossed their mind. I was like, this is about your skills, your transferable skills, and the years of experience that you have to support the reputation that you're walking in the door with. So don't be surprised when they're willing to pay for that. Like, get yourself off that clearance aisle real fast and put yourself over in that exotic plant area where people are walking in willing to pay. No questions asked. And this is what I really want to help people understand. I don't care if you are a newbie to the field that you're entering, if it's your first real job. I have these conversations as well a lot, especially this time of the year. Graduation has happened, folks are starting to look. And here's the thing, you still have something to offer. If you did not, there would be no need for newbies coming into a workspace, right? But there's something you bring that can be molded and crafted to fit, to help with the assignment that's before you. And the work that our young people are doing these days is tremendous. I look back on my own work when I was doing volunteer work, when I was helping to chair, organizations and all that while in college. Oh my gosh. The skills that you learn in those situations are so telling, and you did it for free, right? And that's why moving forward, as you're developing, as you're growing in your career, as you are shifting, I always remind people, I'm like, don't forget to seek out leadership opportunities in your community, in your profession, whatever, to help boost and to help you be able to strengthen those skills, strengthen those experiences. I tell people all the time, there are so many things that I learned from my nonprofit board service over the years. I've been the chair of numerous boards. I've helped do development for many organizations. And those skills have fed into what I do professionally. I'm not partitioning that off when I walk into a new role, when I go make a new proposal for work or for a project, and neither are you. This is why I say, like, quit acting like you're cutting off a part of who you are. And it's like, well, this is just the piece you're going to get. And I'm, no, that's not how it works. But there's a commercial. No, that's not how it works. It's not how it works. You bring your whole self to the work, to the experience, to the position, and you need to make sure all of that is getting valued appropriately. Now, it's way easy to say, don't put yourself on the clearance aisle or take yourself off the clearance aisle. And a lot of people don't know how to do that on their own. That's the work I do, right? Helping people come to that realization, shifting those mindsets that's putting them in that position to begin with, and helping them to recognize where you're shorting yourself on what you bring to the table. And sometimes it's scary, right? People will say, no, I don't know. That seems too pushy. Is that true? And here's the truth. This is back to that whole thing, a difference between men and women. Women will generally devalue their skills way more than men will, right? Because they're like, well, is that actually true? Yes, it's true. If you did the work, it's true. Meanwhile, you got other folks out here making up stuff, just lying. And so I've been there, done that, trying to make sure it's actually accurate. Guess what? You did the work, it's true, right? And it's because we're not trying to be boisterous or to be braggadocious and all of that. You know what? Time out for all of that. Tell them what you did. Tell them what you're capable of doing. And tell them how I'm going to make sure that this next thing happens for you as well. There's nothing wrong with confidence in who you are and what you can do, which is why you need to make sure you're not putting yourself on the clearance rack by devaluing what you actually bring to the table. One of the exercises that I do on a regular basis, at least once a year, it used to be more often, but at least once a year, and that I always have my clients do as well, is to sit down and go back and think about those positions that were either where you felt like the most alive, like you were in your zone, and what were you doing and why did you feel that way and what were those things, as well as those positions or projects or whatever where it was very, very challenging and you're like, oh my God, I would not want to go back and do that. Well, you may not want to go back to that position, but what were the skill sets that you learned from it? What was the experience that you gained? Between those two types of scenarios, you're going to find your zone of excellence and, dare I say, probably your zone of genius. And that's where you can really hone in on what you bring to the table, and being able to uh, uh, not consolidate the work, but consolidate the description of what it is, right? Bring it all together and put it forth in a package that represents you well. So if you've never done that exercise, I highly recommend it. It's really valuable. And you're saying, well, if you've done this all the, it's because sometimes I forget. And when I go back through and I'm revisiting old positions or other things, or let's say it may come accidentally just because I run into an old colleague. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot about when we worked together there. And that will send me down that thought process. And that will also be like, you know what? I put a lot of time into that project. I did a lot of work. That was some really good stuff that I did, right? And this is when we have to acknowledge that for ourselves, because guess what? Most of the time, there's not someone sitting around the corner waiting to sing your praises all day long on your behalf. We are thankful, of course, for those people who do, but literally, they're not going to be there every single moment of the day, or when you need to be able to say, my value is actually this. Here's what I really can bring to the table. Let's start there, right? You have to be able to speak up for yourself and do that. That's that advocacy piece. You got to be able to speak up for yourself. You got to tell the story for yourself, not just waiting for someone else to tell it for you. May make some people uncomfortable. And guess what? It's okay. It's great. You still got to tell folks about it. And I have had to deal with that because as I've gone further into my career and away from some of the things that I used to do, literally as I'm moving forward into things, I'm having to remember so that I can remind people, I'm like, hey, I actually have a really extensive background. Let me tell you a little bit about it and how that plays into this role. Because again, everyone's wrapped up in what they're doing. They're running around doing this and that. They're not thinking about you and what you did 10 years ago and how that plays in. They may not even know. It's not even being uncaring or anything. It's just life. Things are busy. It's crazy. So you got to be able to tell that story for yourself. All right. So I would love to hear from you for those situations where maybe you put yourself on the clearance aisle and you're like, yeah, I need out. I need out. I need off that clearance aisle and I need help figuring out what to do next. I highly recommend, reaching out, DM me, setting up time to do a strategy power hour. Those are fantastic for that, where we can just bounce ideas. We can talk through things at whatever you want for an hour. And then you can decide how you want to move forward. If there's something more long term you'd like to engage in, or if you need some direction on where to head to next. Would love to have that time. Or if you just want to tell me about one of your stories where it's just like, oh my God, I did this and this is what happened, I'd love to hear that too. I love hearing a great story, and especially what you did with that information, how that worked out for you. So that is what we have for today. Let me know how it hits. Make sure to hit the thumbs up, to share this out, and we will see you in the next video.